Hello, hello, hello. 4.3, triangle congruence by ASA and AAS. And you should know what that stands for. These two things right here. This one would be angle, side, angle, and this would be angle, angle, side. So first, angle, side, angle, when you trace it out. When you start tracing, you should pick a spot that has nothing there. So here would be at B, I have nothing, and then I have nothing, and then, oh, I'm given angle A, and then I'm given AC, and then I'm given angle C. So that's my angle, side, angle. And to make sure that they're congruent, you have to make sure that those three parts are congruent to these three parts, which they are. So then my congruent statement would be angle A is congruent to D, so A and D go first. AC right here is congruent to DF, so if I look, AC is in the same spot as DF, and angle C and F should be in the same spot, which they are, so that would be a good congruent statement. Looking at this picture, which two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle? Well, when I'm looking at these three pictures, I see that all of them have one angle that's 1 dash. I see that all of them have one angle that's 2 dash. And I see that all of them have one side length that has 1 dash. So now I have to see which ones are congruent by ASA. So now I'm going to trace them out. My first triangle, I have nothing, then I have an angle, and then I have a side, and then I have another angle. So that has ASA. If I look over here, if I have nothing, and then I have an angle, and I don't have anything there, and then I have another angle, and then I have a side. So that's angle, angle, side. And my last triangle that I start at N, I have nothing, and then I have an angle, and then I trace over a side, and then I have another angle. So these are my two triangles that would be congruent. Now I want to write a congruent statement for them. So I'm going to say triangle. I'm going to just state this first triangle first. USV is congruent to triangle. So I went in the order my angle has 1 dash, and then I went to the angle that has nothing, and then I went to the angle that has 2 dashes. So I want to make sure to go in that same order. So I have to start at the angle that has 1 dash and go to the angle that has nothing there. So that would be ENO, and that would be a good congruent statement. And then I have angle, angle, side. So two angles right next to each other and then a side. So when you're tracing this out, if I start here, I don't have anything at angle C, but if I trace it, I have a side, and then I have an angle here, and then I have another angle. Side, angle, angle. Now if I start over here, and I have an angle, and then I have another angle, and then I have a side. Now the way that I wrote it, they don't look the exact same. But as long as you could rewrite one of them so that it looks like the other, so if I rewrote this right here, I could rewrite it as angle, angle, side. And now they're the same. So just because they're not the exact same right away, you should look to see if you can rewrite the two shortcuts to see if they can look the same. And then this would be my congruent statement. So I drew two triangles here, and by first looking at them, you might think, yes, they're congruent by angle, angle, side. Because when I trace this, here's an angle, and here's a side. And if I start over here, here's an angle, and here's a side. But you have to be very careful. So if I were to just write my congruent statement, if I thought these two were congruent, and let's just say I go ACB is going to be congruent to triangle. And I have to make sure that they're in the corresponding parts. So A angle has 1 dash, so that has to be in the same spot as E. C angle has 2 dashes, that has to be the same spot as F. And then I would have D left over. Now if I check this, the angles are correct. But if I look here, my side here, BC, has to be in the same spot as DE, right here. And those two are not corresponding. They're not in the same spot. And why do you think that? Well, if I look back at my picture, I see that when I traced my angle side, I went from 1 dash to 2 dash, and then my line had 1 dash. And when I was looking at my second picture, I started with an angle that had 2 dashes to 1 dash. So it didn't go in the correct order. So even though they both had 2 angles on the side that are congruent, it didn't go in the corresponding order. Because of the fact that this side length that is congruent to this side is not touching the same angle that's congruent. Here my first picture is touching angle C, here my second is touching angle E. So those two triangles are not congruent with the amount of information that we have. So that is all for today. We're going to be working with proofs in class, so make sure that if you are not in class, you get proofs from somebody else that was. Have a wonderful day.